They didn't think of that one apparently.
I mean, I can say, speaking for myself, I've done my part to try to stimulate the economy this year because my car broke and I
I've
needed to
done a
get a
lot
new
of
one.
shopping.
Exactly.
I've done my part.
And I didn't go buy no wimpy ass used one. I went out to the dealership and I bought a brand new Ford. So I've done my part. Don't
Yeah.
ask me for a whole lot more, please. Only so
Yeah.
much of my tax dollars can go towards this. I've already paid for mine. I've done my bit.
I go to Taco Bell almost every day.
Well, there you go. I mean,
There.
because not only are you paying more for your food than you have to, you're keeping extra people employed
But
to
you're
cook it.
yeah,
And
but
you know,
yeah,
I
but you're
and
and you're keeping the people in the healthcare industry employed.
eventually, yeah. And let me say, if you're going to Taco Bell, I hope you're not being like some wimp and going and sitting in there and eating it. I mean, God damn it, go through the drive-through and idle your car as long as possible so you can spend more in gas because we need more tax revenue. Thinking of gas, did you hear about the hijacking today?
No.
Well, you know, we've had these issues off, usually in the Gulf of Oman, where the Somalians and whatnot have been picking off, small boats and whatnot, the pirates.
Okay.
Really, I mean, you got to have people in the security services quaking in their boots today. Instead of getting in the Gulf of Oman, they picked up a super tanker with $100 million worth of crude, 500 miles off the coast of Kenya, and
Really?
hijacked it. I mean, that super tanker had made
You'd
it.
have thought this would have been all over the
Yeah,
news.
it was late breaking. Um,
Oh, how late breaking? Like
uh,
just before we were coming on, or?
yeah, about an hour before. And so,
Oh,
I mean, this
well, you
isn't.
should have said something.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
And now I am.
And now you are.
But I mean, if the pirates are going to get that, I mean, from the security standpoint, if these people, if the pirates are going to get to the point where they're taking out a super tanker, I mean, can you imagine what you can do with a super tanker? I mean, what can Al Qaeda do with a super tanker? You know, pay up, or we're just going to drive this sucker straight at, name a port, name a beach, name somewhere where the ecological impact of driving a super tanker onto the rocks. I mean, you thought Exxon Valdez off the coast of Alaska was bad. Can you imagine driving this into a populated harbor or something?
Mm.
And throwing
Yeah,
a
the borders are not secure.
and throwing a
They're
bomb
not.
in it while they're at it.
The borders are not secure, and they're not checking all the, you know, things
Yeah.
that are coming off those boats
Well, and this is
from suspicious countries even.
this is a super tanker with
It's just
crude.
there's too many. You
Yeah,
know the type of people you'd have to employ to
exactly.
but if you do that, then that's what people say. If the government really wants to fix the economy, then what really needs to be done? Infrastructure,
Yeah.
roads, bridges, fixing old bridges, stuff like that, so ones aren't caving in like it did last year,
Well, yeah.
and and working on infrastructure and create that alone can create a whole bunch of jobs. And the government's still making their way because they're making the taxes. The government creates a large worker force, but because everyone's been so convinced that the government has to be small, that they can't conceive of the thought that but maybe for a while, till we get out of this, till we weather the storm, the government's got to be bigger
Or funding more. I mean, the fact
or
is,
funding more,
there is a
taking up more things that historically they don't,
yeah.
with the understanding that it's temporary. But the problem is, every time there's an understanding that it's going to be temporary, it always ends up becoming set in stone.
Yeah,
And
but
that's the problem of saying, well, we will, as soon as we can afford to stop it, we'll stop it. Well, things like that, they never stop, right? Once they
exactly.
get going.
But the only way you get the economy,
Entitlement
yeah,
programs never go away.
the only way the economy gets back on track is if money starts getting put into it. People have to spend money. Well, people don't have money, and the only people left with money is the government. I mean, when you have too many people, unemployed, underemployed, can't get the credit, or this and that, they're not going to boost the economy. The only one left is the government, and it sucks, especially given the current balance sheet.
Yeah.
But you pull the troops out of Iraq, you suddenly got an extra 10 billion a month you could
Yeah.
dump into the
Think about
domestic
all the
economy.
money every week, every month they're spending in Iraq. I mean, it's ludicrous. Can just get that money back and get things under control. But don't kid yourself, we got a war in Afghanistan to win, and things haven't been, well, Iraq's been going on, everyone's been ignoring Afghanistan. And it's devolved into a really bad situation, you
Yeah.
know.
And
It's like when the Sunni awakening happened. Uh, it's like Al Qaeda went back and started fighting NATO
yep.
in Afghanistan. And then George Bush and everyone said, "Oh, see, the surge works." No, they moved. They're now attacking all NATO members in Afghanistan,
Well,
and
yeah.
body bags are even to countries with not huge populations are stacking up.
And what's been astounding has been discovering in the last week or two the stories. Most of the resupply route to the NATO and allied forces in Afghanistan is via truck through the worst areas of Pakistan. So we're actually trucking our oil and our reinforcement, our ammo and all the supplies that the bases in, southern Afghanistan need to operate. We're trucking through the same area of Waziristan where we presume bin
Yeah,
Laden and the
yeah.
hotbed of Al
Meanwhile,
Qaeda to be.
Pakistan has given them autonomy.
And
Waziristan.
over the last week, the convoys haven't been making it to the bases. I mean, one day they lost 13 trucks and they actually shut down all deliveries for a few days because they couldn't get through the certain areas. I mean,
Yeah,
the
things are devolving very quickly in
yeah.
Afghanistan.
How do you have your resupply route run through enemy territory? I mean, can you imagine that in World War II? Our resupply routes after the invasion on D-Day is to cycle things through Germany to come over across the lines and resupply. I mean, you can't
Yeah,
have a resupply route that runs through the enemy territory, but
yeah,
that's what we have,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and
Because
it's
Pakistan is
ludicrous.
not the friends of the United States.
And do you know the
They're
main
not.
yeah, and do you know the main reason why we still have it that way is because we never, despite all our promises when we went into Afghanistan, we're going to help build you up and get you going and do some infrastructure projects there. We still
Yeah.
have barely got even the
We're just gonna
Kabul.
we'll get rid of the Taliban,
Yeah,
and then we'll help you with some infrastructure, and we'll give you a hand up.
but we never did.
And but no, because they can't even we can't even rid them of the Taliban.
No, well, they spent 5 years and they still haven't got completed. Last I
But
heard, the
that's
Kabul to
because they've
Kandahar
been
road.
so undertrooped, underfunded, and ignored. It really is true what Obama says. It is the forgotten war.
Yep.
It is the war that has been forgotten.
We're going after Al Qaeda.
Well,
Death to
thankfully
Bin Laden.
Obama
Hey, let's go over
won.
there.
Thankfully Obama won, or McCain would have started just having parties about how he won in Iraq. They didn't win in Iraq. They just moved. They're
Yeah.
in Afghanistan.
Well, and at least
Not
at least we have the agreement now. I mean, we do have that draft agreement
yeah,
signed with Iraq,
which was
um,
starting to look scary. It was starting to look like it was going to
and I mean,
run out.
it does still imply 3 more years, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to keep the full troop level there for the full 3 years. And I think you have to. The time is now. There's just too much on the plate. You got to say, we'd like to give you a little more time, but you guys want to be
We've
the
been
sovereign
training
country.
you. Yeah, you want to
Be
be
the sovereign
sovereign.
country.
Well, and part of that deal though is that Iraq retained the right to arrest and charge and keep in their country any people, even American soldiers that they believe committed crimes in their country. They
Yep,
got that in.
they did.
They did. So that means,
A lot of those Blackwater guys who like to shoot people on their time off for fun, actually
might
better.
get held.
Yeah,
And the
but
United States is not going to save their ass. So that's interesting. But meanwhile, George Bush and Dick Cheney and Don Rumsfeld and Doug Fife and Paul Wolfowitz and Richard Pearl and all these other, Dick Cheney, all the architects of this are going to walk around and stay very rich men and become even richer.
well, hey, they got the lecture circuit to look for after this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, the people they threw in there to fight it are going to be subject to, you know, Iraqi court martials,
Hmm.
which we all know how they end. I seen the execution of Saddam on the internet.
Yeah, that was
Disturbing,
very.
very.
That being said,
I
when the day
think
comes,